Hello everybody, my name is Steffi Carter. I work for the South Atlantic Environmental Research Institute and I'm based in the Falkland Islands. The project that I'm managing down here is the soil mapping project, which is using soil mapping as a tool for climate change mitigation. And today I would like to tell you a little bit more about the project and why it is important to understand and to protect the soils here in the Falklands. That project is grant-aided by the Darwin Initiative through UK government funding, and we've got lots of different partners involved, without whom the project wouldn't be possible. We've got the James Hutton Institute, the University de Magallanes, the Natural History Museum, the Falkland Island Government, the Falkland Islands Trust, and the Centre for Ecology and Hydrology. First of all, I'd like to tell you a little bit about the background of the project so you understand what we're doing, and then I will focus on why we're doing it. So we've got three broad aims. The first one is to create a national soil map for the Falklands. The map that we currently got is just an interpretation of the geology, and it's very crude and is not necessarily very useful on a farm level. We would also like to establish a baseline for peat extent, carbon stock, erosion risk, and soil microbiology, because this is all information that we don't really have at the moment. And the third aim is to deliver an online tool for farmers so they can improve their land management and become more climate resilient. So the idea is that at the end of this project, we'll have lots of different maps, lots of different layers, different properties, and that farmers can zoom in down to a resolution of 10 meters and find out what the properties are on their farm. So the way we go about it is we're using a digital soil mapping approach with spatial covariates and field observations. So in simple terms, that means that we're taking all the information that we currently have got, such as topography, geology, vegetation, habitat, satellite imagery, and all of this information is fed into a model, and the model then produced soil survey points, about 200 of them all across the Falklands for us, and we go to each of these points and we collect soil samples, which then go back into the lab for chemical analyses, but we also take soil cores and we describe the horizons in these cores in detail. So we record information such as texture, soil color, absence or presence of stones, mottles, soil strength, fiber content, and so on. And this information then combined with the chemical information tells us what soil type we've got in which areas. So at the same time, this also means that these points were collected by a computer model, that there was no consideration for access. And some of these points are really remote and we have to walk long distances, or there's lots of off-road driving involved, which doesn't go very well all the time, most of the time though. But it's all good fun and the project is on schedule. We've got 2 field seasons. The last one was last summer and the current one is this summer. I'm in the middle of it at the moment. And the idea is that at the end of the project, we will produce lots and lots of different maps of different layers, such as soil type or the chemical properties, peat depth, and so on. So this is just an example of the maps that we will be producing. So for instance, here, looking at organic matter content, the darker the color, the higher the organic matter, the darker the color here, the lower the bulk density, and the darker the color, the lower the pH. So you can see we've got lots of deep peats in the north of East Falkland. You can see this pattern reflected here. You've got high organic matter content with low bulk density and low pH, which is quite representative of the deep peats that we've got here. So the benefits of this project are sort of on two scales. One is local and the other one is the global impact of the project. So we'll focus on the local impact that we hope to have first, and that just focuses on improving land management around here. So I mentioned that we hope to have a map for erosion risk at the end of the project, and the idea is that we can then sit down with the landowners and let them know in which area they might have a certain topography with certain soil types, certain vegetation, certain rainfall, and that might increase the soil risk in these areas, and that perhaps they need to reduce the stocking density, or maybe they need to take off livestock altogether and just make them aware of where we've got issues, because erosion is quite a big problem in the Falklands and it is believed that it is getting worse with climate change and certain types of land management. So we hope to improve the erosion here, or at least make sure it doesn't get worse. But the other thing that we're focusing on is tussock restoration. Tussock is a grass which is quite important for and sea lions shelter in it. It's important for nesting birds such as the tussock bird and the copse wren. But at the same time, it can be important for farmers as well because it provides food for livestock in the winter and shelter as well from the wind. So there are lots of different restoration projects going on across the Falklands, but not all of them are equally successful. And so one farm owner we engaged with, he said he's tried different restoration approaches in different areas, but they're not all going equally well. And so, for instance, he's got one area where it's going quite well and another area where it's not going so well. So we went to these sites and we collected soil samples and we will carry out chemical analyses of these areas, but we'll look at the soil microbiology at the same time as well. And we went to a third location where we've got pristine tussock that had never been grazed, so we want to find out what the situation there is as well and compare that to these restoration sites. So yeah, so the land management is what we're hoping to improve here locally. But there is also a global aspect of the Falklands. We don't really know what the peatland extent is here in the Falklands at the moment. So there's a variety of estimates ranging from 25% of the land area is covered in peatlands to 94%. But the 94% is quite an old estimate and is probably not very accurate. But even if you just take the conservative estimate of 25% of the land cover as peatlands, that means the Falklands have slightly more peatlands than Northern Ireland, so they're really significant for the UK. But at the same time, the Falkland Islands are also the UK overseas territories with the largest uncertainty in terms of greenhouse gas emissions from land use, because we don't know what the extent is of the peatlands, but we also don't know what condition they're in. And in order for the Falkland Island peatlands to be recognized globally, we need to know what extent they've got, but also what state they're in. So one of the things that we're looking at in this project is the greenhouse gas emissions. So we've got soil collars and we carry out gas flux measurements. We're looking at CO2 at the moment, but we also just started methane monitoring as well recently. So we hope to get a better idea of whether the peatlands are actually still absorbing carbon or whether they're emitting carbon, so what their role is in climate change here. So once we can show that they are globally important, once they've got a spot on the map, we know what their extent and what their status is in, and we can hopefully attract more attention and funding for them in the future to protect them. So thank you very much for your attention. If you want to get in touch with me, please send me an email. I'd be delighted to hear from you. If you've got any questions, please let me know. And well, thank you very much and enjoy the rest of your evening.